does need one.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Transportation Infrastructure and Innovation Subcommittee. I'll call the meeting to order. Do we have any public cards? We do not. Okay. The minutes of the meeting of January 7th. Has everyone had a chance to review?
Yes.
Any changes? Motion to approve?
Move.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion's carried unanimously. Consent items 2 and 3. Any questions, comments, or a motion?
I have a question on
Okay.
item 2.
All right.
And
Aviation here? No. Here she comes.
what the question is about the list. I can't find item 2 right now on my page 19. Hang on. And it's not about, it's about the list of where that you used in order to select the item. Here it is, the State of Arizona Cooperative Agreement and Statewide Marketing Services. Could you please explain that? Because I'm noticing on many other items that they're going through the State of Arizona Cooperative Agreement. What exactly is that? And why are we going through that process and not an RFP process?
Good morning, Councilwoman.
Morning.
Good morning. We looked at what available vehicles were available within the city, where we could leverage website design and development services. We found that the city could leverage the State of Arizona Cooperative Agreement, which offers those services. The state had previously did a procurement, and they had selected 11 firms who provide such services. And when we realized that these firms are able to provide these services, we worked with our procurement and downtown to see if we could leverage the state procurement and utilize those 11 firms to actually help us with our project for design and development services. So we reached out to those 11 firms and sort of understood what their capabilities were, what was their role on the state contract, and realized that they actually provided the services that we were looking for. So kind of that's the process we went through.
Okay. And I guess my question is, do we not have a qualified vendors list? That if we're looking for these services, to create a qualified vendors list so that people then could be on the vendors list as to what we're looking for?
Madam Chair, to Councilwoman Pastor, currently in the aviation department, we do not have a qualified vendors list for these services. We are highly encouraged as a department to utilize cooperative purchasing agreements because they have already done the work and they've been vetted through the state. And so for procurement standpoint, it is one of the best practices that we try to utilize. So we just make sure that everyone on the state vendors list can provide those services, but it kind of aids the city in not having to do its own formal solicitation if there is a vetted process out there.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that you were highly encouraged, or departments are encouraged to use the state cooperative list if in order to be able to provide services. This is being encouraged through the procurement office. Is that what I heard correctly?
Madam Chair, to Councilwoman Pastor, as part of the city's AR, that is one of the procurement options that we can utilize is cooperative purchasing.
Okay. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because it's happening, I believe, later this afternoon. There's an item where that is also being used. So I'm seeing this pop up more frequently and trying to figure out why. So that's why you just happen to be here. And actually understand what the process is in using this, because I also feel that we should have our own qualified vendor list, and we should go through the process, and we should also have use our own process of procurement. So I understand in the sense of saving time and money in this. I don't know if it's money, but it's more time because then you're able to use this list. My whole thing is, if that's the way we're going to go, then I would like to know what the process is to become part of the state cooperative list. And if we're going to start moving that way, then to let those that want to have services or provide services to the city, then start getting on that list. And you don't have to respond. I'm just saying, I'm putting it on the record so that people understand where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Yes, I mean, just piggybacking a little bit to what Councilwoman Pastor is saying. I mean, I understand that the process is a lot shorter when we use that list, but I don't know if it saves us, if it really saves the city money, right? Which is my biggest issue, right? Because I think we go on and we say, you know, we need money for our potholes, we need money for the parks, we need money. And we're always, and I believe all the different departments are amazing and great at trying to meet the needs that we're asking for our constituents. So I'm not exactly sure if this in the long run is the healthiest option, given that we have so many needs for our constituents day in and day out. And then also we have, I mean, I would like to see how is it that maybe we could go through an RFP process, or how is it that we make it easier to make sure that people get onto that list that might provide the same services, but it wouldn't cost the city so much money when we're going through these processes.
I have a quick question on the list. Are they all the same price? How do you select within the list?
Councilwoman, so the state of Arizona cooperative agreement, when they did their procurement a few years ago, they had a criteria and they selected the 11 firms based on that criteria. And each of those firms had a price for different type of services that they offered under that contract. So the first thing we did was we reached out to those 11 firms and we looked at what services they offered and how they matched with the project that we are planning to undertake. After that, we issued the scope of work to those firms, and they responded to that scope of work with the price that they had already committed under the state contract. So we looked at what their price was for different services when they responded, and we evaluated them based on that price that was offered to us.
And how often do they create these lists? Do they go out? So
unlike a qualified vendor list, this was a specific procurement that the state of Arizona did. So they did it a few years ago, and they selected 11 firms. So till the entirety of that contract, those 11 firms are on that contract. When this contract will expire with the state, then they might again choose or may not choose to go again for a procurement to have those services.
Thank you.
Can I ask one question? You mentioned AR. I don't know, I think of Arizona revised statutes, which is ARS, but AR, that's what goes through my head. What is AR?
Madam Chair, and to Councilwoman Pastor, that is the city's administrative regulation. Administrative Regulation 3.10 is the procurement administrative regulation, which staff utilizes whenever we conduct RFPs, RFQs, and/or QVL processes.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, it's clear that there are a sufficient number of questions relating to our procurement process and the use of state cooperative lists. And so we as staff can, there's a bigger picture probably than just this item. And staff will want to come back and talk to you about that and have a fresh discussion about the utilization of the cooperatives. And if needed, we can continue this item today if necessary as well. So just wanted to offer that if need be. But it sounds like it's more of a bigger picture discussion.
I think it is a bigger picture, and the process should be fully explained to council members. But truthfully, I have no problem going forward.
I don't have a problem. It's really.
So do I have a motion?
I move item number 2, website design and development services.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Did we do 3? Okay, item 3.
I move item number 3.
Okay, I have a
It was
motion
on-
to approve.
Second.
It's on consent, yeah.
Yeah, but you named a number.
Oh, sorry.
All in favor,
All
please say aye.
consent items
Aye.
left.
Unanimous support. Anyone need any information on items 4 through 7?
Just a comment.
Yes.
I just want to commend the Street Transportation Department with their accelerated pavement program. We're going to have another summer, I'm sure, with a lot of activity, and I really appreciate you guys stepping up and getting the job done. Thank you.
They have done a great job, so
They have.
thank you. Brings us to item 8. I think staff has a presentation.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, Nancy Allen from Environmental Programs and Roseanne Albright from Environmental Programs are here to present to you on the 2025 Phoenix Food Action Plan.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Subcommittee. I'm Nancy Allen with the Office of Environmental Programs, and with me today is Roseanne Albright, also with the Office of Environmental Programs. We're here today to talk about the 2025 Phoenix Food Action Plan. Food is a central part of all of our lives. We need it to live. It also binds us together economically and through our communities. Roseanne is going to outline this plan and its blueprint for achieving our council-approved 2050 food systems goal for a thriving food system.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee. Happy to be in front of you again to talk about one of my favorite subjects, food and our local food system. So as Nancy mentioned, certainly food is integral to our life. Along with clean air and clean water, we need food in order to survive. In addition to those benefits, life-giving benefits, we also know that there are economic opportunities that come from a healthy local food system, whether it's for the farmers or folks working in the food industry, and even maybe for residents who have community gardens that maybe want to sell that food. We also know that it improves health and quality of life by reducing rates of hunger and reducing rates of obesity and diet-related diseases, and really improving the quality of life for individuals and families. And certainly food is love. Food is all about connection. It connects all of us together through families, through neighbors, connections from farmers to consumers. So all of that helps us create that healthy local food system. So as we started to identify what does our local food system look like before we started to develop the plan, we wanted to do an assessment, and we partnered with the Maricopa County Food System Coalition, and through a grant that we received, conducted a food assessment. It was really extensive. It took a couple of years to complete. And just a few of the highlights from that report I'd like to give to you. We know that 1 in 5 children in Maricopa County experience limited or uncertain availability of food. 1 in 5. That's way too high. We also know that 49% of residents who were surveyed by Maricopa County Department of Public Health struggle to pay for essentials like food, housing, and clothing. And we also know that there are other barriers to accessing healthy food, from affordability to time to transportation or lack of transportation, and then certainly the availability of places that sell quality, healthy foods. We also know that here in the city of Phoenix, we have food deserts. Food deserts is a term that U.S. Department of Agriculture uses to describe places where residents in low-income census tracts live more than a mile from a healthy food outlet, whether it's a grocery store or a farmer's market or a food hub. They just don't have that easy access to healthy food. In the county, there are 55 food deserts. In Phoenix, there's 43. Nearly half of our population live in those food deserts. So in those blue outlined areas that you see on this map are food desert areas, primarily in our central, south, and western parts of our city, but you see there are a couple of places up north as well. Before I get, yes?
So looking at the map, one looks like it's Deer Valley Airport. So, and everything around Deer Valley I thought was industrial. So I'm just curious how they come to their conclusions.
Right. Madam Chair, Councilwoman Stark, the food desert up in that particular area, it was identified because there are people that are living in that particular area. There might not be a ton of folks because it is highly industrial, but given that there are residents that live in those areas, those are counted as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right, so before I get into a little bit of the overview of the plan, I wanted to share with you that while we've been preparing this plan over the past couple of years, we have been addressing some of those challenges that we've identified. So we've done a lot of work in collaborating with partners that are already in this food system world. This is the first time the City of Phoenix has delved so deeply, and so we needed to learn a lot and collaborate with our partners. So we're partnering with Local First, who's helping us to convene local farmers, not only with city staff, but in the future with all of you as elected officials as well, so we can understand what they face in their food production world. We also are proud to announce that this year, the statewide Arizona Food and Farm Forum is going to be held in late April in South Phoenix. So this will be the first time that this forum is held in our city, and we'll have an opportunity to highlight what we're doing. We're working on a sustainable food economy accelerator. What that really means is that we're helping existing food businesses to become more efficient and to grow their businesses. So it's really business assistance, which we hope will be institutionalized, whether it's with us or Local First or one of our other partners, to also potentially include an incubator in the future as well. We're working on our Phoenix Brownfields to Healthfields program, where we have converted 10 environmentally contaminated sites into community gardens, school gardens, urban farms, a farmer's market, and a food hub. So that work has been quite successful. And we're working with our economic development department, specifically in South Phoenix, to start with on food asset mapping, not only to identify what's there, but also to promote those businesses and make folks all over the county aware of the great assets that we have there as well. And then always seeking funding. One of the things that I learned early on coming to the City of Phoenix is it's great to have resources to do what we do. So we've submitted a lot of grants. We seek for grant opportunities where it makes sense for us, it satisfies our needs, it's feasible, and it helps us achieve those goals. So that's always a part of what we do as well. Yes?
So where it says Sustainable Food Economy Accelerator and then helping these businesses, can you break that down just a little bit more, like what type of support we're giving to those businesses, or what is the plan to do so?
Thank you. Madam Chair, Vice Mayor Guardado. So we are in the beginning stages of this grant that we received with the National Science Foundation. It's in partnership with the City of Tempe, Local First, and ASU. So right now we are in the evaluation stage where we are working in different tracks. For example, on the food waste side, we're working with restaurants and then working with farmers to identify how can we help you. So what that assistance looks like, we're not quite sure yet because we want to identify what they may need. One of the things that we've identified is more clearer understanding of zoning codes and ordinances, not only in Phoenix, but in other locations as well. And then making those connections between local food and purchasing that local food and getting it to consumers so that, for example, we're working with a brewery that wants to use local products. How can we get them connected with the farmer, and how can we promote them to the consumer as well? How can we make their processes more efficient so they're more energy efficient and more sustainable as well?
Then when you say restaurants, what type of restaurants are we talking about?
Right now, we have a list of quite a few. We haven't focused in on any specific, but primarily we're looking at locally owned businesses. So it wouldn't be those chain restaurants, but it would be those locally owned businesses.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, so a food action plan, what is all that about? It really just is a blueprint from the community that helps us address every aspect of the food system, from growing all the way to processing, all the way back into food waste and back into the soil. We're identifying concrete actions that help us really identify what it is that we want to do to support that local food system.
Those? Give us an.
Madam Chair, as we keep going forward, if you might indulge me, we have that in a couple of slides later.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. So as we started to put this plan together, as you might imagine, all of us are part of the food system. We're all eaters. We're all stakeholders in that system. So we wanted to make sure we reached those people that are most impacted by hunger and food insecurity. So we established some equitable community engagement practices, and we did some food training and established a community of practice in South Phoenix and Maryvale to start with. And we have primarily women of color that are affected and challenged by accessing healthy food on a daily basis be part of this community of practice to help provide input and advise us and bring others into the fold to understand what the challenges and potential opportunities are so that we could co-create solutions together. One of the key things that we did was bring institutions like City of Phoenix, the county, the Maricopa County Food System Coalition, Valley of the Sun United Way, together with our community of practice to listen to each other and understand what we could do to solve problems together. So in South Phoenix, we also had the benefit, we won an EPA technical assistance grant for the Local Foods, Local Places program, and we were able to do a 2-day workshop, which enabled us to bring not only our community of practice folks, but others to the fold, and we ended up creating a South Phoenix food action plan, kind of a mini food action plan that identifies actions specifically for that particular community. And I wanted to highlight that one of the things that was really eye-opening for us was to really use values of equitable engagement. And one of those things was moving at the speed of trust I wanted to highlight. Sometimes we get really excited about we need to hurry and get something done without understanding the full breadth of the problem or understanding directly from people that are most affected by it. So this is one of the things that we learned and took some time and really learned from residents what they really wanted to see. And we're doing that work in Maryvale. We just did one of our community meetings and workshop in November, just before the holidays, and we'll be continuing to do some work over the next few months. I'm not sure what that end result will be. It'll depend upon what residents really want to see, whether it's identifying a specific project or it may be identifying a full Maryvale food action plan. So more to come on that as well. All right, so as we collected all this input from all of our food system stakeholders, we identified 5 specific goals. So our first goal was really healthy food for all, just to recognize that everyone living in Phoenix should have access to healthy, local, and culturally appropriate food. And one of those things in there to help identify that is to create opportunities through our land use plans and our economic development plans that we highlight that food access is an important piece of future development. Our second goal is to strengthen the local economy, to recognize that businesses that are involved in the food system are important to our economy. They contribute quite a bit, and they should be able to thrive in our city. And a couple of strategies in that area would be working with our economic development department to identify financial resources that might be possible. One of the things we're doing, as I mentioned earlier, was that food asset mapping, really to see where are they and identify what help we can provide. We heard a lot about job training and providing those kinds of resources as well. Our third goal is celebrating local and diverse agriculture, really recognizing that growing food in Phoenix should be easy and valued, whether you do it for personal use or for your business. So in this area, we're looking at updating zoning codes and ordinances just to make it clear as to how and where you can grow food, because there's a lot of new techniques that are out there, from growing inside storage containers to growing on rooftops to even growing on the sides of buildings. So we need to be able to adapt to all of those things. Our fourth goal is to maintain a sustainable environment, and here we're really looking at sustainable food production practices, energy efficient, water efficient, that maintain our healthy environment and healthy food for people living in our community. And here we also address food-related waste. So one of our strategies is to look at what can we do with regards to increasing food recovery. So not only do we want food to go to compost where possible, but where it can still be eaten, how can we partner with others and provide opportunities to do more food rescue? And then lastly is to create a resilient food system. And this is really to develop policies and actions that help us address what's going to be happening in the future. We know our population is going to continue to grow. We know that water is an issue we need to keep track of. And we know that our changes can be expected, whether it's political or economic, and we need to be able to adapt those. So that particular piece could even be a plan all by itself, but that's something that we'll continue to study as well. So as we're going through this, this is our first iteration of the plan, and it will be targeted for goals for 2025. We want to come back to all of you once a year and report our progress. We have identified a set of metrics that go along with each of these goals and strategies, and we'll come back to report that to you as well. So I just want to thank all of you for indulging us in this effort over the past couple of years, and we appreciate your insight and your recognition that a local food system is an important piece for our citizens. And what we do today is certainly going to impact now and in the future, and especially for those little young ones you see on those photos. So I would like to, on behalf of Office of Environmental Programs and all of our food system stakeholders, request that the Transportation, Infrastructure, and Innovation Subcommittee recommend to City Council approval of the 2025 Food Action Plan. Thank you.
Yeah, so I know that there's a lot of businesses out there. I mean, we were just meeting, and this is just one local business out of, thousands that I know that are out there. So we have Salad and Go, right? And they started out in Gilbert, and they're starting to expand. And I know that they just opened a Salad and Go. I think it's like Buckeye and 91st Avenue, and and they're trying to accommodate the community, and they continue to lower down their prices in order for people to make it accessible for people to come and buy there. I would like to see maybe a more deep conversation with them, just because they're trying really hard on how is it that they can open up a lot more stores. It's a drive-through, it's healthy, it's good, and it's affordable, and they're willing to work with us to making sure that our constituents will eat the food as well, right? So I would just like to see a little bit more of that. Maybe trying to figure out what are those businesses where we can, because I know part of the frustrating process is when they are trying to get permits or they're trying to come to the city, and that process just takes a little bit longer than they would want it to be. So how is it that we can also help with that process as we're helping them come in and bring in healthier options into the district? The other thing is that I would love for you to just come and to the office and brief us and see how is it that we can be helpful with those conversations in Maryvale, and how we can actually help to turn out and bring constituents out and seeing what is it that we can do to work together. I know you guys did a great job over the fall working with Cartwright School District. So I just want to see how we can actually do more of that and engaging some of the other community organizations in Maryvale that are actually trying to do the same thing. But yeah, thank you so much for what you guys do.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We'll take you up on that offer.
Go ahead.
I really appreciate the start. When I entered office, United Way Amy and I sat down about this and talked about food deserts. So it has expanded and moved to where the point that it's at. So I really appreciate that. I am more action oriented, and in the plan, there are the goals and the strategies. But what I am now looking for are digging deeper in the plan as to, okay, there's this strategy. What is the strategy? How are we going to implement the strategy? Who's part of the strategy? Where do we need to connect? Who needs to connect? And I know we're going to vote on the plan, but that's what I think is needed now when we vote on a plan. To have that embedded so that then all the community partners understand where they fit in and how they contribute, and making sure they're not, I guess not making, trying not, there's overlap, and how then do they say, where's the gap? And that's very important in a plan. And so I would like to see that soon. So that then we can have, then the communities that are working on this can then just go and find out, really, when I hear this, my mind is, where's the funding? And where are we looking for the funding? And how do then we, as electeds, start to engage to say, this is important, here's the map, and now we need you to engage. One of the conversations that we had was really about agriculture and our agriculture community, and we were talking about, in my mind was, one of the things when I'm sitting on the water conservation task force, one of the things that came out in the conservation task force was agriculture uses water. Well, I expect agriculture to use water because we need things to grow. I also expect it's not their fault that they use the ton of water. There's technology now that is working with the agriculture community to figure out how do you conserve water as you grow. The agriculture community is very important to us because as a native of Arizona, and I have seen the agriculture community go away and further west and east, but that's now growing. And how do we preserve that? But really, how do we preserve our core agriculture in Phoenix or Maricopa, and to make sure that the agriculture community is supported and not struggling? Because a lot of them are going out of it, are selling their land because, first of all, their land's valuable. And they'll never see, the land is valuable and they need that also to live and retire. But once it's gone, it's gone. And so how do we encourage, really as a system, and really say, this space we're preserving for agriculture, which is very a difficult conversation because that's in the zoning and it's in the development world, but we also have to push to say, we want to preserve this. Because it's very easy to come and rezone. So I would like to see some strategies of that in the plan as you continue to grow it and build it. As we talked about, or Councilwoman Guardado said, I said Gallardo, I was like, Guardado said, the Maryvale Equitable Community, there's 3 of us that represent Maryvale. So I think it's important that you engage us so that all our communities are represented and are able then to give their opinion or voice. They may not physically be at a meeting, but maybe we do a survey online so that we can gather a bigger group to understand the needs and the wants of that area. I would say one of the wants is no more fast food.
Yeah, no more fast food.
I know that only because of my surveys, but no more fast foods. We want quality food. So,
Thank you, Councilwoman.
but really appreciate all the work because it takes a village and a collective that's out here to make it happen and really to get the voices in front of us and understand what is needed for our community. So I appreciate it.
We appreciate your thought for action because that'll be the next phase of implementation is let's go.
Okay, I'm ready.
That's my frustration, is we've talked about it. We approved a garden at a park that was also supposed to build a building to teach people how to prepare food. And nothing's ever happened. And that's been 2 or 3 years ago. And I get very frustrated when we come up with these grand ideas, but I don't see dates or who's held responsible when it doesn't happen. And we don't get progress reports. And, I mean, you're absolutely right. We need the food. We need quality food. We need to teach the young people what's nutritious, how to prepare it. And I was wondering if part of this, are you working with organizations that have programs for kids or teenagers or even younger, that they can incorporate it into their training stations on how important it is to learn about that? Because they took all of home ec and everything out of schools, and that's where we used to learn what was nutritious and how to prepare it. And I think it's a real shame because kids think fast food's okay. It's food, and it's not. But I'm very concerned about that. And also, it used to be you could donate your citrus, or if you had a big garden, you could donate it. And now people can't donate it.
St. Mary's Food Bank.
St.
They're
Mary's
taking
Food
it
Bank
right
They're
now.
taking it
Yeah,
now
they're
because
taking it
before
now.
they would not take it.
Yeah, before, I don't know what changed, but they're taking it
Because
this
there was
year.
some type of regulation
So-
that wouldn't allow.
Yeah, something might have happened, but this year they're taking it. Yeah, because
Oh,
in the
good.
past they wouldn't.
Promoting it, right?
Yes.
Will they come pick it? I got a
I'll
couple.
go, I'll go out and collect. I'll go out and help you.
No, but I just encourage you to follow what the councilwoman suggested of, set some timeframes. If you don't meet them, just tell us you didn't and why.
Yep.
But when we think all this is proceeding, and then we find out nothing happened, at least I get testy about it, as you probably recognized. And I want you to be successful. I just want you to have a schedule. And, you know, if there's something we can do to help make sure it proceeds on time, on schedule, whether it's volunteers, it's gardens, whatever it may be, we get things done. Women on the council, and we're more than happy to help you, but we have to know. So that's my comments.
I mean, I think it would be helpful for me, right? Just because we have so many things happening all the time. But this one is an issue that's, as you guys remember when we met in the summer, something I'm very passionate about. So maybe getting a monthly briefing on where we're at with the plan, and because maybe by then you guys could come in with the plan and what are some of those like timelines that you guys are going to meet. So probably coming in and giving us a monthly briefing on where things stand. And then maybe even you have an ask for us, like what are some of those things that we can do to help move this forward faster?
Okay.
I'm gonna go one step further.
Uh-oh.
I don't think we've made a motion, so what I'm going to add to this is that there's a timeline of when things are gonna go into play. It says 2025, we're 2020, and so I think as we're voting for this plan, there needs to be a timeline as to dates, and it could be a broad timeline, like spring 2022. But I think we need to embed a timeline in this food action plan in order to make sure we're hitting our goals and making sure we may not hit it and say this is the hiccup or this is where we need some guidance and help. But I think there should be dates or months and years maybe.
Councilwoman, thank you for bringing that up, because within the plan and under each of those goals, there is a schedule, action items, and responsible parties. It's not included in the entire council report, and for brevity in this presentation, we couldn't go through it all. But I think maybe a great thing to do would be to sit down with each of you, and we can go through the plan
Okay.
in detail and get it done in that way and start moving on those actions. So we appreciate that you're cognizant of that schedule, because we are too. We want to come back to you every year and say, we did this, we didn't do this, and we didn't do this because, or we were successful because. So,
That's what we want to hear. We have some cards.
Oh, go ahead. Thank you.
Jason Matthews.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee. My name is Jason Matthews. I'm a resident of District 4 and also a member of the Encanto Village Planning Committee. We had a meeting this week. That's why I'm a little tired. So, I just really want to thank staff and all the supporters and all of you for considering this food action plan. I firmly support this, and I hope the subcommittee approves this plan. From my vantage point, working in human services, especially around food insecurity, especially childhood food insecurity, to see the kind of innovation that this plan brings of integrating all of these different services together is just second to none. In my experience, usually you'll have kind of all the hunger folks in kind of one camp and kind of all the economic development folks and all the farmers, and sometimes they talk with each other, but sometimes they don't. But this is an opportunity for the city of Phoenix to show some leadership, to really bring all of those folks together and have a comprehensive plan that we can all work and measure impact together. And also just, just from a resident perspective, especially from like a village perspective, the items that come in this kind of plan also help and guide a lot of local residents, even around questions around like, well, gee whiz, like what size, local garden can I do? Or what if I wanted to, hand out, some extra, citrus in my yard? Am I going to, break some kind of laws or something like that? All of those little kind of fun things. But even this is the opportunity to even help guide local residents so they can see themselves in being a part of the solution, being a part of this food system, and helping their fellow neighbors. So again, I urge to support this plan, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. George Brooks.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Councilwoman. It's a pleasure to be up here, and to all of my colleagues here that I didn't see when I walked in and sat down. I would have been over here with you. My name is George Brooks. I am a resident of South Mountain Village. I am the former chair of South Mountain Village Planning Committee. I am also a professor of agriculture at Mesa Community College, and former faculty at University of Arizona in agriculture as well. Born and raised in South Phoenix, and we are all one grandmother away from that in that community from agriculture. Councilman Pastor, I've had the pleasure of working with you in the past, and I look forward to working with all of you in the future, and particularly with Roseanne. There are many things in this food action plan that I am very, very happy with. I'm glad to see that it's building off of the initial start that was given in the Phoenix General Plan when it was voted in 5 years ago. Now, the issue, when I leave here today, I'm going to go back to my college and teach a class in urban agriculture that I'm proud to be in the 11th semester of. My wife and I became urban farmers ourselves when the house next door to ours burned down, and we captured the land, and we chose not to sell it, even though I get a phone call every week and my sister asking for me to sell our land to them. We are saying, no, we have turned it into a farm. Looking at it, the lettuce this morning, after that freeze last night, I have some work to do when I get home. But nevertheless, 75 years ago, yellow light, we demonstrated with victory gardens that we could feed a nation from our backyards. The same is true today. I encourage this plan. I encourage you to vote for this plan because there are great possibilities for everything, health, environment, and economics as our future in the city. And I thank you.
Thank you. Kate Rados. Sorry.
Good morning. Chairwoman and subcommittee members, thank you for having me. My name is Kate Radosevic, and I'm the Food and Farm Initiatives Manager with Local First Arizona Foundation. And I just want to start by saying that I'm really excited to hear a lot of our conversations echoed back in the questions that were asked. That recognition of our region's agricultural heritage, the importance of long-term food security, especially for our children. Those are things that have motivated the formation of this plan, and so I'm very excited to hear those reflected back to us. And I stand here today in support of this food action plan. And I really want to reiterate that Roseanne and the Office of Environmental Programs and as well as the the Community and Economic Development departments have gone above and beyond to really reach out to constituents, most especially our farmers and existing food businesses in the region to, as Roseanne said, move at the speed of trust and build relationships. So there's a very strong coalition that is ready to hit the ground running with this plan. And we saw that the city's involvement at the 2019 Arizona Food and Farm Forum was incredibly well received, and we're really looking forward to partnering at the 2020 Arizona Food and Farm Forum in South Phoenix. And I really want to thank you for Roseanne and both departments for their continued support and involvement, and appreciate your consideration of this, ensuring that all residents have access to fresh, healthy, local, and culturally appropriate food for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Fatima Rogne? I'm sure I murdered your name too, sorry.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Councilwoman. This is only my second time coming to the mic, so I'm learning this process. My name is Fatima Mohammed Roque. I am a member of the South Phoenix community. I also am a birth worker in the community, so I work on issues of infant mortality, maternal child health, and I've worked in South Phoenix since 2004. I'm a graduate of the University of Arizona in plant biology, and I have a strong background in health and wellness. I've been a part of the community of practice meetings for the last several months, and the work that Roseanne is doing in our community is phenomenal. I have been directly impacted. I have grown personally, and I take that information back to the women, children, and families that I work with to show them that there are people in our community at higher levels who are really working to have our voices heard and provide access and sustainable programming and empowerment for us to be able to feed our families. I have directly been affected by having access to food, even as a professional in the community and a provider in the community. And so the work that Roseanne has presented has gone well beyond a food action plan. She has established trust in the community. It does take time, and I know she's working in two worlds, and it's very hard to work in those two worlds and to establish presence so that people understand how to make positive change. I know that Vice Mayor Guardado presented information about Salad and Go. So there was a Salad and Go in our community. It was a little one stand that was very disrespectful. It actually did not offer any job opportunities. Is that my time?
Just
okay.
Finish.
Thank you. It didn't offer any job opportunities. It was a walk-up stand. It had a fence around it, and it was a vending machine. And so people in our community were supposed to walk up and get a salad that was pre-prepared from a vending machine in South Phoenix. So I don't know what the planning was around that, but I would like to see more jobs, especially in areas like that where our youth and our families can work in community around food and do gardening and incorporate all of these lessons for the food action plan. So I am definitely in support of it and all the work that's being done around it, and I am a participant in that work. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Joseph Lanos.
Larios. Larios.
Okay. Lanio?
Larios.
There's no D in there.
It's an R.
I'm sorry.
The R. It's a rolled
it's an
R.
Oh.
Larios.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I just want to say something I love about this program is its willingness to talk about the history of our own built environments, which are unique. There's a reason why there's so many, food deserts within South Phoenix and West Phoenix. And a lot of times our own communities who've lived there for years are disconnected from that history. And so that's been really important. And when we think about moving at the speed of trust, if our own community is disconnected to that history, all of these wonderful partners with the best of intentions are also disconnected from that history. And so it's been great to engage folks in grounding us and how did we get here in the first place? What that's allowed us to do is have conversations about the realities of our presence. South Phoenix is a hotspot for a number of health disparities, but it's also a hotspot for mass incarceration. And we have to talk about those intersections when we're talking about the folks who have the least access to food in our urban areas. Lastly, coming together and recognizing that there's hope for a sustainable future, even in the face of climate change, where people are saying the best thing you can do to prepare is help people learn how to grow their own food. What's great is that as we are looking to the future of an action plan, we're committed to finding the most hope in our indigenous brothers and sisters, the O'odham Nation, the Salt River, and the Gila River communities that are just to the south and west of us, figuring out how do we have field trips in this coming year to Ramona Farms to learn what are the challenges to growing a healthy, sustainable food economy. And then lastly, the thing I would say as a South Mountain Village Planning Committee member, we haven't updated our general plan. And so we have a ton of zoning regulations, and how we hold the space is already weighted to real estate market development. And we don't have a lot of way of talking about the importance of agricultural production to our future. And so until we do those updates in the planning department, until we do those updates within how we're even bringing in applicants to the conversation about the future of development, it's hard to move fast on these things. So just wanted to throw that out there as well. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the general plan, we update every 10 years.
Yeah.
So I guess my curiosity, Councilwoman Williams, is how do we update midway?
I don't know, but
That's
I'll
a
bet
planning.
staff can
It's
find
a
out
planning,
for
but
us.
I'd be very
Or former
curious. to
staff
know.
can probably tell
Or
us.
actually,
I'm actually
Councilwoman
going to
Stark.
say that we can ask the Planning Commission to review it so they could initiate a study. You don't just have to do it through the general plan, but you can do amendments, major amendments on a yearly basis to the general plan. So maybe that's a good idea that we maybe recommend to the Planning Commission to initiate an amendment.
Okay. Thank you. Eric O'Neill? Please tell me I didn't mess up your name too.
No, you didn't.
Thank you.
Good morning, Councilwoman and distinguished staff. It's my first time on this mic here. Joseph said a lot, so did Fatima, about what I wanted to address, but the one thing I want to stress is the importance of supporting Roseanne and the plan for South Phoenix. I work with Tiger Mountain Foundation. I also work with my wife, who's a naturopath physician, and I see the importance of having a healthy and nutritious diet and the understanding of where certain diseases come from. Diabetes is a learned trait, it's not a genetic trait. And when I see parents going to McDonald's and the meals that they're giving to their children 3 and 4 times a day, it's all sugar. I see the cancer rates in this country. Lost a sister and 2 aunts to cancer over the last 2 years. And it's all based on diet. It's all based on a lack of education. It's all based on not having informed people within the community to understand what is good and what is bad. I live in South Phoenix. I've watched South Phoenix develop and grow, but I've watched the development of houses come in. I've watched the orchards disappear. I've watched the farmlands go away. I have not seen a restaurant that comes in and offers a good salad. I have not seen a restaurant that comes in and offers anything vegetarian or vegan or any option outside of potatoes, burritos, and something else that's going to give us an unsustainable type of lifestyle. I've watched people my age and a little younger suffer from diseases and illness and ailments that they could easily have avoided if they knew how to eat a proper meal, if they understood that food is medicine, right? And medicine is food. So I strongly urge the support and a positive vote for this plan in support of Roseanne, in support of South Phoenix, in support of West Phoenix, in support of everybody in Phoenix, honestly, because for me, when I walk around and see people who are obese or even malnourished, it's a sad state of affairs that we have control over. Thank you.
Thank you. Ken Chapman?
Good morning. Ken Chapman. I'm with Drinking Gourd Farms. We're building a network of Black urban farmers throughout Phoenix as part of the Black Phoenix Organizing Collective. And a couple of points on this plan. First of all, it's a great plan. It's a great plan that needs to be taken into action, to your point. There is a couple of things that council can do immediately when we're thinking about how to make this actionable. In Phoenix, we have a large and growing Muslim population. When we say that folks should have access to quality and culturally relevant food, and they want to raise goats on their property, they're told they're not able to raise goats, but they should raise pigs instead. That's something that council could take action on immediately. We also have a number of new developments that are going in every single day, and we're quite proud of that. What is their rainwater harvesting, right? Why isn't council pushing those questions now? We know that those practices would make Phoenix more sustainable today. We don't have to wait on a plan. We also have a number of city-owned properties. And to your point about preservation of agriculture and when they were restoring that legacy and tradition in Phoenix, it's okay. How are we using city-owned property to say, okay, we're gonna plant the flag for urban farmers here today? And so I wanna make sure that when we're talking about the plan, we're also talking about present tense and what are council members looking at as the agenda rolls out for the next formal council meeting. So thank you.
Thank you. We have one card left who does not want to speak, Kenneth Steele, who is in support. Do I have a motion?
I move, what is this? I move the 2025 food action plan.
Second.
Didn't you want to add something to that?
Oh, and add the timeline.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to talk about the scooter program.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, last month we gave an update on the downtown shared electric scooter pilot program. And now we're a month away from the 6 months expiring. And so Keeney Knutson is here to talk about the program and ask for an extension of that pilot so that we can get more information about how that's going downtown. Keeney?
Thank you, Mario. Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, as you're well aware of, last month we came and had a conversation with you about the 3-month update on our 6-month pilot program. And generally what we'd heard was everything was going pretty well. We had a lot of good feedback and response. And as you note, probably a couple days after Our subcommittee meeting last month, one of the vendors did pull out, so now we're operating with just one vendor in operation with our pilot program. But as you know, I'm going to go through right now and talk a little bit about where we would see us going in the future after the 6-month pilot program. So the first thing, just a recollection of where we are with the program. It is a 6-month pilot, started in September, and it is scheduled to end in mid-March. We did have a permit process where we opened it up for vendors, and we had 3 vendors we analyzed and worked with, and actually issued 3 permits to them. As I mentioned, 2 of those vendors have ceased to continue to operate within the permit, the pilot program. The downtown boundary is set up for the operation of the scooters, and it's shown up here in the map that you see up on the slide. We have one thing that's unique, as we've talked about here, that was very much supported by the council, was having designated parking areas to make sure we were keeping track of where the scooters are parked, both at the end and the beginning of the rides. And then as a recollection, remembering that we have the 6-month pilot does schedule to end on March 16th. So the prior approvals that we had to allow the scooter pilot program to go into place was amending the city code. So that allowed us to actually operate scooters within the city of Phoenix, because they were not allowed to be operating before we amended the city code. And then we also established a fee schedule that was based on trying to make sure we were cost recovery with the operation of our pilot program. So the proposed next steps we have, considering the 3-month update we did last month, is to request to extend the pilot program for another 6 months. That would require us to amend the city code to extend the sunset provision that's currently in place. So the changes we made to allow scooters to operate in the city of Phoenix, that needs to be extended to allow the 6-month extension to happen. And then we'd also want to issue permits for the extension to the vendor right now that we have, the one vendor in operation. One thing we also would like to have an opportunity to be able to do is to accept new vendor applications. We've heard from at least one other vendor who is interested in potentially participating in our pilot program, and where we'd like to give them the opportunity, if they meet our requirements, to be able to participate. And then right this time, we don't recommend an adjustment to the fee schedule. We would like to have, what we would recommend, respectfully recommend, is have an opportunity to be able to look at 12 months of operation of the pilot program if this is approved, and come back with the full costs and revenues that come back from the program to make a holistic decision on how it operates under the current arrangement over that 12 months. So our recommendation that's before you today is to recommend City Council approval to extend this downtown shared electric scooter pilot program for an additional 6 months, to amend the ordinance that put into place the ability to operate scooters here and extend that for an additional 6 months, and then to accept new vendor applications for the pilot program. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the subcommittee members may have.
No one has questions? I do have a couple cards. Tim Alborg.
Good morning, Chairwoman Williams, fellow members of the subcommittee. My name is Tim Alborg. I'm here today to speak on behalf of SPIN. SPIN is very excited to be operating here in Phoenix. We have a strong partnerships that we've forged with council and staff since the beginning of the pilot. And we're also proud to have delivered the most scooter rides so far during the pilot with the least violations of the rules. Hopefully we've demonstrated through our actions and not just our words that we're committed to the community in the long term. I'd like to take a moment to thank again Chris Ewell, Brianna Velez, Keeney Knutson, and Michael Cano, the rest of the Street Transportation Department, for really doing a fantastic job in running this pilot. They've been doing a great job so far. It's been overwhelmingly positive from our perspective, and we definitely support staff's recommendation that they extend the pilot for another 6 months. As to what comes next, SPIN suggests that the city continue to examine what other cities are doing, in particular cities like Pittsburgh, who are seeking companies that can work together to bring a variety of new transportation options to the city. And one innovative tool that we're working with staff on is to bring SPIN hub charging stations to Phoenix. I talked a little bit about this at the last subcommittee meeting, and we're working with staff on these charging stations to get them installed very soon. And these will decrease VMT and carbon emissions from our delivery vehicles. And so, we're also hoping to keep the sidewalks and streets free from clutter with these charging stations as well. So stay tuned for that. And then finally, I just wanted to say that SPIN will continue to be a collaborative partner with the city. We look forward to continuing to provide a safe and sustainable scooter experience for residents and visitors of Phoenix. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I do have a question.
So how many charging stations are you guys thinking about, or what is the number that we're thinking?
Vice Mayor, thank you for the question. If you want to answer that question? Okay. We've been talking with staff about deploying up to 10 during the pilot. So that's the initial number that we're thinking about. We have 2 right now that we're looking at, and actually I have the addresses for you right now. The 2 that we're looking at right now would be at 1st and Taylor Streets and 5th and Monroe Streets. There's still some blue staking, as they call it, where we need to make sure that when we're securing these charging stations to the pavement, we're not hitting any utilities. And so we're working through that process. But once that process is complete, we're looking forward to getting these out there.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Diane Barker?
Morning, Madam Chair and Subcommittee. I do live downtown, and I saw that this program's right across the street from me. So before I take a spin, pun, I'd like to, and come down and see you on one of them, wear something different and get on there. Although I do see business clothes because people are using them to come downtown. I've had the sad experience of being in Scottsdale last year and being run down by a e-scooter. And it was just so surprising to this young couple that they would even run into a woman. And here I'm on the concrete, and I'll tell you, I was sore. Sore, not only angry, but also I was sore on my rump. And I said, if I wasn't in as good shape, you could have killed me, you guys. Then afterwards, I felt so bad by chewing them out. I said, come on over to the Buckeye game. But anyway, this is the safety is the main reason that I'm here. I'm for the program, the extension, Keeney, and, the good things. But let's face it. I see in Phoenix, they're up on the sidewalk, and then you have pedestrians, and you're going to have more because we have more building that's going on and people are coming down here. And they really don't need to use their car downtown. I've been down here for over 10 years and I get around very well walking and bicycling and not using my car. I use it for longer distances. So again, let's be ever vigilant about the safety and the parking of these e-scooters. Thank you.
Thank you. John Brodsky said he doesn't want to speak unless necessary.
He said no.
He said no. All right, thank you. Do questions?
No, just comments.
Okay.
So first, I just want to thank Keeney and the team for just such a smooth process, right, that this has been. I know that a lot of us had a lot of questions as we were voting for this and seeing what was going on in other cities, just thinking, oh my God, are we just opening up a new can of worms of eyesores throughout the city? And it has not been that way. So just thank you so much for being incredibly responsible and making sure, that we continue to do this the smoothest way possible. And I am very happy to see that we're probably one of the greatest examples for the rest of the country, probably, on the way that you guys have done this. So I just want to give a lot of thanks to the team and to Keeney and to everyone that has made this possible. Thank you.
Anyone?
I have one comment because I am with Diane Barker. Since I almost got hit twice by two, because they were on the sidewalk. So that was one of my key pieces in working out the pilot program, was that it would not, the scooters would not be on sidewalks. My question is, where I go back again on the piece, was enforcement, because we were looking at how police could enforce, and then possibly the navigators to be able to not enforce, but be able to stop and say, by the way, you're breaking the law, you need to get out on on the street or in the bike lane. So that's still one of my concerns. How are we, or how is the company advising the consumer what the rules are?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Pastor, a couple things about that. I think as with a pilot program like this, I think when we're talking about some of the ambassador staff that work in the downtown area, but also with the police, a lot of the effort initially was doing a lot of education to make sure when they saw that kind of activity, they were educating. You need to go in the streets. Then obviously the next piece is enforcement. I would tell you from my perspective, one of the things I want to make sure we do that we've already kind of done when we initially put out the pilot was look at ways that we can improve bicycle markings and striping in downtown area, and look where we can improve bicycle lanes or areas where we can have people so that people feel less needing to have to ride on the sidewalks to be able to be safe. And so we want to have a safe areas for people to operate within the pilot program area. So that's something that we're not done with yet. We still have some major projects, Third and Fifth Avenue project, Third Street project, that are going to help further help us with our bike facilities and infrastructure. But regarding the vendor, that's something we'll continue to work with the vendor. I know when a rider does check out a bicycle, or I'm sorry, e-scooter, that they do go through and talk about the rules and regulations of operating here. That's something we can continue to look at to see if ways that we can better influence behavior and remind people that sidewalk riding is not what they should be doing.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Anyone have any more questions? Or can we have a motion to approve staff's recommendation?
I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next is street racing update.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, Assistant Chief Sandra Renteria from Police, along with Commander Graydon Carlson, is here to discuss what we've seen to be a growing problem that needs to be addressed and the challenges with that. And so I'll turn it over to Chief Renteria.
Madam Chair and subcommittee members, my name is Sandra Renteria, as mentioned, with police. With me is Commander Grady Carlson, the commander over the Maryvale Estrella Mountain Precinct. We're here to update staff to provide an update on street racing. Since the majority of the street racing is occurring in the southwest part of the valley, Commander Carlson is overseeing our enforcement program to address this, and he'll be providing the update.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, good morning. I'd like to start off with giving you just a little brief history so you're aware of how we arrived at where we are today. Although this has been a problem in the Maryvale Estrella Mountain area for quite some time, we've never seen the numbers that we're experiencing today. And it really got on our radar going back to last May of 19, when the community action officers started receiving an influx, if you will, of community complaints from both community members as well as businesses. And the general complaint was car and truck clubs were gathering in parking lots, large open parking lots, and they were conducting their various exhibitions of speed. As you can imagine, this left the parking lot damaged with burnt rubber, trash, and it even got to the point in some instances where the groups were harassing employees as they were arriving or leaving from work. So the community action officers immediately began working with the businesses. They walked them through the process of obtaining authority to arrests and posting proper signage to enforce trespassing. Once that was complete, a very small group of officers, primarily, actually only, from the Maryvale Estrella Mountain Precinct began conducting targeted enforcement on the groups. At this point, it was mostly related to trespassing violations on private property, and this continued through the summer months. And we actually thought we were getting a handle on it, and then the weather cooled. The weather cooled and they came back in bigger numbers than we've ever seen. On any given night, we'd see 300 to 500 of them, and I trust we've all seen the videos on the news of their intersection takeovers. So at this point, we realized this was beyond the scope of just the precinct addressing this problem. So we reached out department-wide, created a task force, if you will. Currently, the task force is represented by all 7 patrol precincts, the Transportation Bureau in the way of motor officers, and the Tactical Support Bureau in the way of unmarked canine officers, as well as the air units, both helicopter and airplane. The activity is really prevalent in the city, although there are a few intersections that they do like outside the city. So we have regular conversations with the Tolleson and Avondale police departments, as well as the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, because there's some county islands that they jump to. So recently, the biggest thing that's happened is we were granted $100,000 from the Governor's Office of Highway Safety to assist us in combating this problem. So since late November, the task force has been operating weekly, and I can tell you right now that these numbers are a little low because they change all the time. We've issued over 1,200 citations, over 80 of which were for racing or reckless driving. Over 60 vehicles have been impounded, and nearly 30 people have been booked into jail when that's been an appropriate response. So this ends my update, reference the police department's enforcement actions, but I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah. We have a bill that was introduced yesterday.
I think we're all on the, I can go last.
Yes,
You wanna go,
I
Deb?
said that, yeah.
You saw the bill.
I just have.
I know it got dropped.
Yeah.
I know you were working on it.
I got briefed on that bill yesterday. I just have a question. As far as enforcement, are you also enlisting school resource officers? I remember we had a problem on Central Avenue with drag racing, and the Sunny Slope High School resource officer hauled in all the juniors and seniors and talked about responsible driving. So is that also something you're looking at?
Madam Chair and Councilwoman, it absolutely is. The police department has taken a holistic approach to this. We are mentioning it at every community meeting. The SROs are putting it out in the schools. And what I didn't mention is we're also working with the city prosecutor's office. So all of the violations are going to one or two prosecutors.
Thank you.
Yes.
Councilwoman, did you want to make comment?
Yes. So I had been pushing to get this item on the agenda, and I'm actually very fortunate that Councilwoman Williams said yes to put it on the agenda, so I really appreciate it. This have, as you know, and with the other officers, the community action officers, as we're attending meetings on the west side and even on the east side, I use the I-17 as separating us, that it's been a problem. And we had been discussing over the summer, okay, well, how do we solve this? We were thinking about asking owners to put chain links to block off the property, you know, what other ways, and it hadn't been happening. But then it continued, and it continued, and it got bigger and bigger, and it got more and more dangerous. And so one of the things that I think is for all of us is safety of our neighborhoods. And as we started to see videos coming out and how the safety became a bigger issue, especially those standing around and seeing the car go and clip one of them, and then when you saw enforcement come in or police come in, you saw how they blocked everybody out so that the cars could get out. They also blocked 4 major Indian school on 15th and 19th to make sure that all 4 corners were blocked so that they could do what they do, and it's dangerous. Bottom line is it's dangerous. You're also breaking the law, and you're putting a lot of people at risk. So I wanted to thank the Arizona Conference of Police and Sheriffs and the Phoenix Police Sergeant and Lieutenants Association. for moving to the legislature, which Senator Paul Boyer decided to take it on. And Paul and I had been talking, and I said, you get the language, here's what I feel, or here's what I think is reasonable. I also was speaking about making sure it's civil and looking at the piece. Never thought, I mean, we were just, I was talking and then all of a sudden it was moving and it moved. And so I want to thank the co-sponsors who also signed on this bill, which was Senators Heather Carter, Lupe Contreras, Martin Quesada, Rebecca Rios, Representative Shauna Block, Noel Campbell, Frank Carroll, John Kavanaugh, Anthony Kern, and Aaron Lieberman. And this is a bipartisan legislation, which is great. It's awesome. And the introduction of SB 1659 lays the groundwork really for stricter penalties, and including impoundment of the car for 30 days and a $1,000 fine. What the bill also proposes is the creation of the Drag Racing Prevention Enforcement Fund, which will provide additional resources to local law enforcement agency. So we're able then to have the task force. And quite frankly, this is a big step into stopping a growing problem that is happening. I'm also committed to looking for possible space in the future for if they want this activity, or this is, I mean, it gives them a high, I guess. I don't understand it. So to be able then to find a safe space and be able to then continue their racing, but in a safe space that doesn't affect neighborhoods and put people in danger that don't want to be in danger. So really appreciate all the work, all the entities that have come together, and it really, the police force, but also the communities, because a lot of the neighbors, I get a lot of emails, and all of a sudden it hit. I started getting them in different zones of my district and realized, okay, this is now moving. So really appreciate it. Appreciate the support of my colleagues in this piece, because it affects all of us. So thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Vice Mayor?
Yes, no, it's okay. So I just want to thank you so much for taking this so serious, right? And now we're getting some solutions from the state level as well. I mean, I know that part of what we're trying to do is, I know that we're having a meeting next Friday with the supermoms and police and streets department will be there. And I think we should continue to keep our strong community organizations part of this issue, right? And maybe even trying to find some smaller solutions as we're looking for this big solution to come from the state. I think we're definitely very committed to helping find those solutions. I know that our super moms and different groups in our districts are very willing to be helpful and come up with ideas on how is it that we can find good solutions and continue to work with a lot of these like businesses on how is it that we can stop this, right? Because God forbid, right, a child gets hit or we have something worse that happens in our communities. We definitely want to be able to stop that. But just want to thank everyone and thank Councilwoman Pastor for the leadership on this and hoping that we find great solutions for this. Thank you.
I'm hoping to.
Thank you. I also want to thank Frank and his staff for working on this and really making the legislature know that we are very supportive and this is a major problem. So, and Councilwoman Pastor, thank you for taking leadership.
You know me.
Thank you for the update. Brings us to item 11, Interstate 17 freeway improvements.
Yes, Madam Chair, we are fortunate to have with us some guests from the Arizona Department of Transportation today. Tom Remus is here, our freeway coordinator, along with Maisha Harris. And he'll introduce our guests from ADOT to give updates. We've actually got three different updates, three different projects along the I-17 that we'll give updates on, and we'll have some others come up after the first one. Tom?
Well, at least we're making this one easy. What you have planned for the next couple of years is so complicated.
Madam Chair, members of the subcommittee, as Mario said, I'm Tom Remus, the city's freeway coordination manager, and joining us today we'll have representatives from the city's freeway coordination team, as well as a number of guests from the Arizona Department of Transportation. We're going to be talking about 3 freeway projects in the northern part of the city. The first one is going to be the Interstate 17 interchange reconstruction project at Happy Valley Road in Pinnacle Peak. I'm sure some of you may be familiar with that. Construction is underway and is due to be completed this year. So we'll be receiving a progress update, looking at what's been done and what's to be expected. Next, we're going to be talking about Interstate 17 and a new interchange that will be taking place at Indian School Road. The Maricopa Association of Governments, which is our regional planning organization, has looked at traffic modeling and have found that there's more traffic that actually travels east-west over I-17 than I-17 itself. So we need to be looking at new ways to move traffic throughout the community, and this project will be one of those. And then lastly, I know there's been some interest both in the media as well as on the council about what we're doing on I-17 as you move north. So we're going to have a representative from ADOT here to talk about the new flex lanes that will be going in from Anthem up to Sunset Point and how those new flex lanes will work. And we actually have a short video that will explain some of that as well. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Maisha Harris. She's with our street transportation department. She's part of the freeway coordination team, and she'll introduce our speakers and talk a little bit about our first program we'll be giving you an update on. Maisha.
Thank you, Tom, and good morning, Madam Chair and subcommittee members. Today I'd like to welcome Mr. James Hartman, the Assistant District Engineer with the Arizona Department of Transportation. He'll be presenting the reconstruction of the 2 traffic interchanges at Happy Valley and Pinnacle Peak Roads. With the growing population and development in this area, this project will improve safety and traffic flow. Pinnacle Peak Road bridge will be widened, and Happy Valley Road, the existing roundabouts today will be removed. This project will also include a public art that will be managed by the Office of Arts and Culture. He's a local artist. His name is Daniel Mayer, and the art will be on the north and southbound sides of the Happy Valley Bridge. And I'd like to turn over to Mr. James Hartman.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the subcommittee and the city freeway team for the invitation to come and address you guys this morning. The purpose of this project is really to improve the traffic flow and congestion in the Happy Valley and Pinnacle Peak areas, along with adding an additional lane to improve flow on the I-17 corridor between Happy Valley and Pinnacle Peak Road as well. ADOT, along with its partners, Federal Highways, MAG, and the City of Phoenix, helped develop this capital improvement program or capital improvement project. It's a $50 million project funded by Prop 400 that was originally passed in 2004 by the Maricopa County. It's also got a federal funding portion from the Federal Aid Highways program as well. As you can see here, this is a map of the North Valley of Happy Valley, Pinnacle Peak roads. Part of the project is to reconstruct the traffic interchanges at these 2 crossroads. These bridges were originally constructed in 1964, and as you can imagine, they're 55 years old, and it served their purpose. When they were originally constructed, you could probably imagine what the valley looked like at that time. Those bridges are single lanes in both directions. So the traffic now, the valley has outgrown their original design, and we have congested crossroads because of that. The other portion of the project is to widen the freeway and add another general purpose lane between Pinnacle Peak and Happy Valley Road to help the flow of traffic in that area. As you can see here, this is what Happy Valley looks like now. We have the roundabouts that were constructed in the early 2000s to help alleviate some of that congestion in the area. And it's just outgrown its design, and the growth continues in that area. So we need to improve things to help the flow of traffic. this figure shows what the Happy Valley Bridge and traffic interchange is going to look like when it's done. It's a diverging diamond interchange. DDI is what you might hear. It has 3 lanes in each direction. It will have dedicated right and left turn lanes. It will also include bicycle path and pedestrian sidewalk facilities. Now I'm going to turn the time back over to Maisha to let her talk about some of the aesthetics that we have planned for the project.
Okay, so I'll briefly talk to you about the aesthetics, and that will happen at Happy Valley Road, and it will be the aesthetic bridge, and it'll be on the north and the southbound side. And so I just wanted to explain the artist's concept. The aesthetic concept is a 3 Horton fence panel, which is an atmospheric corrosion-resistant steel with metal striations. The Horton panels have overlapping screens representing landform vistas and metal striations that merge into the sky. So that is his aesthetic concept and what you're seeing there today. And that's a more close-up view and a mock-up, and that mock-up will be used as part of the construction, so it's not waste.
So here we have an aerial view of the Pinnacle Peak, existing Pinnacle Peak bridge and traffic interchange. As you can see, there's 1 lane in each direction. We had just begun construction of the new bridge. We have finished one side of the bridge and are continuing with the other side so we can put traffic on the Pinnacle Peak Road while we construct the Happy Valley portion. This is a figure showing the finished product of the Pinnacle Peak Bridge and traffic interchange. As you can see, Pinnacle Peak Bridge will now have 2 through lanes with dedicated left turn lanes and dedicated right turn lanes, along with bicycle facilities and pedestrian facilities as well. So the project originally kicked off in design in 2017, where we began public outreach. Went to construction in 2018 and continued through 2019 in construction, and we anticipate completion in fall of 2020. So some of the outreach that we've done, this is a big extensive list of what we've already done. We've had public meetings, we've met with HOAs, we've reached out to local industries in the area to inform them of the impact that this construction project will have while they're traveling to and from work and how to get around. So we have an extensive outreach program, and I'd like to thank Kim with our ADOT communications and our city transportation team, because we can't have a successful project without this. I consider the most important piece to let our constituents know of what we are doing.
Thank you very much, because you've got some big employers on that list.
Yes. Some of the ongoing outreach that we're doing, we meet with the City of Phoenix transportation team on a weekly basis and on a monthly basis to plan what we're doing on the project, to canvass businesses, to inform them of traffic changes and ongoing changes of the project. We have an email.gov delivery system that we continuously release public information so they know how to get to work and how to travel and what the best routes are to and from work, so we impact them the least as possible. With that being said, I'd like to thank you guys for your time, and we'll take any questions if you have any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Vice Mayor?
So thank you so much for this. I mean, I think that's really great. I think, we got to look at our freeways and see how do we make sure that we keep the flow of traffic moving. I think that's really, really important. But as we're looking at this, I've heard rumblings about this and this being talked about how is it that we can actually continue to widen the I-17 as we're going, north and south. I don't know if we have any plans to do that.
I think you're going to see a presentation following this that talks about another segment.
Right.
Yeah. Is that true?
Madam Chair, Vice Mayor, yes, we will be talking about the widening going north, but if you're talking about any improvements on existing I-17 within the city of Phoenix going south of here, There are discussions as the Maricopa Association of Governments and the region are talking about the extension of Prop 400. Prop 400 was an initiative that the voters approved in 2004 for a half-cent sales tax to go towards transportation projects. As part of the ongoing discussion of extending that past 2026, there are talks about what else will be done at that time. And some of the widening projects for the actual I-17 facility, more in the downtown area, would be considered as part of that extension project.
I mean, I think that would be great, but I do think that we have to take into consideration the different businesses that would be affected by this and how we, as we continue those conversations, how is it that we bring those businesses into those conversations, right, as we're looking at the widening of the freeway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Madam Chair, the next item that we'll discuss is the Interstate 17 and Indian School Road Traffic Interchange Improvement Project. As I mentioned, we have seen that there's more traffic traveling east and west on Indian School Road than actually on the freeway facility. So ADOT and the Maricopa Association of Governments had to look at how to address that. What types of improvements need to be done? It's my understanding that this particular interchange last was updated many years ago, and it's sort of over 20 years ago. And so it's time to look at how do we handle the amount of traffic. Joining me at the table now is Mark Thornton. He's part of our freeway coordination team out of the planning department. Additionally, we have Adrian Leone, who was the ADOT project manager for this facility, and I'll turn it over to Mark.
Madam Chair, committee members, my name is Mark Thornton, as Tom stated. I'm a principal planner in the Planning and Development Department. I work with ADOT, their general contractors, and stakeholders in the area on freeway-related projects and any issues that may come up. Today we're talking about the I-17 project. The flyover is also what it's referred to as. The project itself will have 2 new pedestrian bridges, bike lanes in either direction, and then of course the flyover bridge as well. And as Tom alluded to, I have Mr. Adrian Leone, who's a project manager with ADOT, who will be giving us a general overview of the project.
Thank you, Subcommittee, for having me today. So, this project, the traffic interchange at I-17, is made possible by utilizing funds that were from the Prop 400 funds that was implemented by Maricopa County voters in 2004. This was the half-cent sales tax. That will fund the design and a portion of the construction. The other portion of construction that is going to be administered by ADOT will be funded by a split share of federal funds, and that is working with FHWA. The project area for this traffic interchange on I-17 is at Indian School Road, and to the west, 27th Avenue, and to the east, our limit would be 19th Avenue. All construction would be within about the 23rd Avenue range, but our footprint, we've extended the limits to evaluate traffic flow. So, in 2017, the MAG spine study, so Maricopa Association of Governments, identified I-17 corridor and proposed projects. I-17 is actually one of the most heavily traveled, I-17 at Indian School is one of the most heavily traveled intersections along I-17, 40% higher than Thomas, and also more than Camelback traffic volumes, with expectation to grow through 2040 to 65,000 vehicles. So we have a congestion issue. And in addition to that, we've taken a safety concern because of all the traffic we have at the intersection. We actually have a high volume of crashes, 900 to be exact, or around 900 in the 5-year period. In addition to that, pedestrian safety has been a concern of the project and corridor. A unique finding of the MAG spine study was that 65% of all the traffic that hits the intersection at I-17 and Indian School goes east-west. So there's a need for east-west connectivity rather than accessing the interstate. So what's the solution we've come up with? We've been in design concept for the last 18 months, and we have a proposed third level interchange at Indian School at I-17. So what this does, it provides safety improvements for traveling vehicles by elevating east-west traffic above the ramp traffic at the interstate. So we don't have conflicting traffic movements of people stopping to turn right onto the interstate. We can now go free flow over the interstate. Another implication of safety is for the pedestrians. And you'll see here we have 2 pedestrian bridges that flank Indian School east and west, so one on each side of the Indian School interchange. You'll see here with the video, I hope, so here we go. So here, the 2 pedestrian bridges, the through traffic as unimpeded through traffic east-west, and then we'll have the bottom level or the middle level, the current Indian School level, to access business and homes, and also the freeway ramps. Community outreach for this project has been a priority for all stakeholders involved. With the spine study in 2015, community outreach began, and we've had a continuous community outreach process through the design and the concept phase of our design concept report. Who was involved? Well, we had HOAs in the area, local business owners, property owners, and also elected officials as well. And that's a current and continuous plan with outreach happening to anybody who accesses the website, and we get responses to the public that way. So where are we at? In 2019 is when we did the conceptual alternative evaluations. Currently, in calendar year 2020, we are going through the final design. So we're finalizing the proposed alternative, and at that point, we'll get together the documents for construction. So right now, we're in the design phase and the clearance phase. We expect construction to begin in calendar year 2021, and I would expect it to be an 18 to 24-month project. And that concludes my portion.
Questions?
I have questions. Can you go back to the aerial?
Yes, ma'am.
Right there. That middle, was watching the aerial. I'm sorry. The middle, right there. As you're going, I guess under now, or as you're going across, you said to be able to access businesses, but the 4 corners are a little bit away from being able to access. Or are you going and then you make a right and then make a left into the business? Or I'm going from 19th Avenue to 35th Avenue or 27th Avenue.
Yes.
I hit right there. I can go over the bridge, or I can go under. And if I go under, I'm visualizing I'm going onto the freeway.
Okay, so and the bottom level is we're going to have for pedestrians, bikes, buses, and business access. So traveling west from 19th Avenue to 27th Avenue, the businesses on this quadrant, what you see here, you'll be able to access with right turns off of Indian School. And we don't no business access in terms of currently there's an elevated median, so business access will remain the same in the same condition we have current today.
Okay, I was trying to visualize that.
Yes.
And I was like, how would that happen?
Yes.
But I understand. One of the pieces about this project is that I know that this project goes through a whole vetting piece through MAG. And then ADOT basically implements the project. And then the city works with both entities or associations. One of the challenges as I've gone through this is that other businesses that are not in the, I don't know, I'm going to call it a zone, and there's a particular word that you use, do get affected the construction and by the piece of what's happening with the 18 months. And so I think in a bigger global conversation with MAG, when these projects happen, not just the ones that fall into the category or the area, but what happens to those that are on the sidelines of how businesses are affected, and what can people do to either assist those businesses or get them prepared as we move out. And I know we've had conversations and you've met with those business owners, but they're not satisfied, they're not happy. And how do we then engage them really beginning when they have this conversation at MAG?
So Madam Chair, Councilwoman Pastor, so you are correct. There have been some conversations that when you do have large freeway improvement projects that impact the arterial streets, what could be done? What more could be done? We have looked at what type of business assistance ADOT traditionally does, and it is that outreach to the businesses that are both within the project limits, meaning where the construction is taking place, and then also just outside those project limits and further to make sure when the traveling public is going through this area, if there's a gas station that they normally frequent, can they still have access to it? So traditionally, ADOT in the city has worked to make sure that there's good signage there. But also I think ADOT meets with those business owners to see when is the business's peak time, time of day, time of year. Are there access control issues for delivery trucks, other vehicles getting out? And we'll work with them on those types of features. After we have had our conversation, the mayor has, as the member of the MAG, Maricopa Association of Governments Regional Council, has made a request for the regional planning body to go and check with other regional agencies across the country to see if there's best practices, see what other communities are doing when these types of construction projects are taking place. And those results will come back to the Maricopa Association of Governments to discuss, and we could bring them back to this body as well.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You were mentioning that you would have the buses on the lower level. Is that because there's bus stops that might access the businesses?
Thank you for the question, Councilwoman. Yes, so we want to keep the routes very similar to as they are today. And if you travel on that third level, it is free flow, so it's going to come down about 27th Avenue. So we want to have the services remain along the bottom level at Indian School, so it's unimpeded with the routes.
So last night we had a presentation on bus rapid transit. He knew I was going to say it, Councilwoman Pastor. And one of the routes they suggested was Indian School. I just wonder, would you be willing to look at any mass transit like buses that are really there to speed up the service? Or is this being built just for cars?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman, so one of the unique features of our freeway coordination team is that we do have a regular connection with all city departments. So as we are going through these projects, whether it's this one, other projects throughout the community, we do work with transit, with streets. We identify what they're talking about to make sure that we're not working at opposite ends. So we do include them as part of the conversation on this.
Okay, I appreciate that because the bus rapid transit is pretty new to our city, but I think it's interesting that we should maybe pursue that discussion. Just a thought.
And Madam Chair, members of the committee, we do anticipate that bus rapid transit could potentially make use of this and would speed up that route. If it were to be on Indian School, for example, Camelback Road is another one that we're looking at.
So my question to the BRT piece, because we were listening, and I believe more of these are happening, will be happening once this one's built, probably on the three main streets that we're looking at, which is Thomas, Indian School, Camelback. I think they were looking at Bell.
And McDowell.
And McDowell. I don't know if there's something geared for
Van
McDowell.
Buren, 19th
And my question though, if they're gonna use, what do you call it?
Flyover.
The flyover. I knew it was, I was like, I don't know. The flyover. The conversation is being talked about as to having a dedicated lane. And so I don't know how many lanes the flyover is. Is it 4 lanes? And I think that's really where we want to have that conversation, because the flyover is meant to move the traffic faster and get over, or more efficient. But if we put the BRT at any of these streets, so they're going to have flyovers, the question now is there going to be a designated lane for BRT?
Madam Chair, Councilwoman Pastor, each of the intersection improvements that you discussed, there are a number of them that are included as part of the Maricopa Association of Governments Regional Transportation Plan. Each of them will be looked at uniquely and independently to look for the best solution. If a solution such as a flyover is recommended, and if there was discussion about including a facility such as BRT, something that would need a dedicated lane, at that time, that would be included as part of the design. With this particular design, at this point right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Adrian, is it 2 lanes in each direction on the flyover portion?
Yes, sir.
But we could look at how facilities would operate if new transit opportunities were to take place on this particular location.
And also, Councilwoman Pastor, as we look at bus rapid transit, one of the key things to remember about that is that dedicated lanes may or may not be part of the solution, or they may be integrated at various points. There are many ways that can be designed. On these flyovers, for example, a dedicated lane may not be necessary. If the traffic's moving consistently and not backed up at intersections because you don't have those stops and turns anymore, then you may not need a dedicated lane on a flyover with bus rapid transit. So those are the things that we'll analyze and look at as we move forward.
Would appreciate it. It's the engineers that would know what to do, not me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are we done? No?
All right, so last but not least, Madam
yes.
Chair, members of the subcommittee, something very exciting. We'll move through quickly for you. Joining me is Annette Riley, the ADOT Assistant State Engineer who is overseeing this project. She has some exciting news for any of us that travel up north, especially on the weekends, and have run into traffic jams. The state and the region have put forward some resources to do an exciting improvement here, and I'll turn it over to Annette to walk us through it.
Thank you, Tom. I'm excited here to be here to present this project, Madam Chair and council members. This is, so we are terming it I-17 Anthem Way to Sunset Point. We call it the flex lanes, but it's actually a widening as well as a flex lane portion on it. Let's see here. Project overview and for funding. Actually, this project is a lucky recipient of $90 million in infra grant funding from federal highways, as well as the governor and the state legislature dedicated $130 million spread over a 3-year period to make this improvement happen. And of course, the 13 miles within the MAG region also was got some funding from MAG, the RAF funding, the half-cent sales tax, about $50 million dedicated to this project. So we are completely funded, I'm happy to say, for all improvements for this project. Okay. Here's a little overview of the corridor. You can see the terrain is quite rugged and mountainous, as any of us residents here in Phoenix who traverse to Flagstaff, Sedona, and to Grand Canyon would know. The project actually starts at, to your to your right over there in Anthem at the TI, at the traffic interchange, coming on to Black Canyon City, about midway point where the widening would happen, and then Black Canyon to Sunset Point where the rest area is where you get to that Table Mesa area. So that this is pretty much a kind of like a general overview on the project corridor itself. As mentioned, we are adding one additional lane on each side, both northbound and southbound from Anthem to Black Canyon City. And what we're calling the flex lanes from Black Canyon City to Sunset Point. Flex lanes are two additional lanes that we're going to piggyback on to the southbound, current southbound lanes, where those flex lanes are going to be open on Friday for northbound, and then either or Sunday or Monday, depending on if it is a holiday weekend, where we will flip it to come for southbound traffic. Okay, construction is scheduled to begin. We are looking for award by end of this calendar year and construction to begin sometime in spring of 2021. And construction duration is estimated about 3 years. The unique nature of this project is we're delivering this project as a design, build, operate, maintain under the P3 private-public partnership statute for the state of Arizona. And a part of the selection process is we are going to be looking at the time duration where the contractor is going to bring up where they're going to be scored well if they show a shortened time frame. So we expect that it will be most likely shorter than 3 years, but right now our estimate is about 3 years duration. And the video, okay. And we have a little unique video here for you to look at that the project team prepared. And we're doing the flyover on just the flex lane portion. You can see kind of like a DMS sign, and where the lane starts opening up onto the existing, you can see the darkened pavement area depicting the new future lanes for the flex lane area. We'll have cameras, we will have gates. You don't see it in this picture, but we will have gates and cameras, so on, to control the flipping of the lanes from each direction to the next. And so 2 additional lanes you can see, and then there's the existing southbound lane. It will be barrier separated, so there'll be a hard concrete barrier separating the existing lanes to the new flex lanes. And then I think we can go on right there. Okay. So southbound and northbound, just so you know. Okay, so this is the northbound lanes being open. The video shows the northbound direction of the flex lanes. And then we have a pause.
So people should know if they're going the wrong way?
Oh, absolutely. We will have. Yes, ma'am, Councilwoman. So we are, I think a lot of the staff and the City of Phoenix residents are familiar with 7th Avenue and 7th Street, where it is a reversible lane. So that is more of a passive reversible lane. We are going to have more of an active measure just because, right? I mean, we're going to have barrier gates, so we're going to have DMS signs that will sequence the individuals going north or south if the lanes are open or not. So there's going to be an active, these are going to be active lanes. Okay, all right, we did cut it. Okay, here's just a project information for your edification. If you are wanting to know the status on the project, we have the phone number, the website, the project website as well, dedicated to this project, as well as the address or physical address where you can contact ADOT for more information.
With that, Madam Chair, that concludes our 3 presentations, and we're available for questions or comments on all of them.
Councilwoman.
It's fascinating. This is great. I really appreciate everything that ADOT does in helping the city of Phoenix out. And so I just want to give you a shout out for helping us on the water line that's going up to 32nd Street. I know you guys were very involved in that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, we are. I think we're excited from ADOT to be partners with both city and MAG in all these developments within the region. So we're excited as well, right?
I want to thank you. Excellent presentation from all 3. And for the ADOT staff, thank you for taking the time to come explain what's going on. I just knew there were several projects that are going to be underway within the same time frame. So I thought it would be helpful if we were aware of what's going to occur and we could get the message out now, hopefully to calm some people down and reduce complaints. I know everyone's curious, but it's excellent presentation. I really appreciate your time, your effort, and the cooperation that we share.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you. Due to the time, and we're within our time frame, how about I put this on either the next TNI or have them come in and brief you individually? Either way?
Either way.
Yeah,
Okay.
either way.
If you get into brief people, that's great, but if you don't, put it on the next one.
Okay, will do, Madam Chair.
Do we have any other cards? We do not. Future agenda items?
I have a question. So I know Meg's talking about the next Prop 400. Do we have any idea of when there'll be some consensus on that so that we could have a presentation at this subcommittee?
Madam Chair, yes, Maricopa Association of Governments is working extensively on the planning for that. And we can have a discussion with them about when a good time would be to come do a presentation to the subcommittee and get that set up. So
Yeah, I would like that. Again, at our meeting last night, they were talking about looking at expanding the Rapids to an all-day system. And so I think there's a lot of exciting things happening, and I certainly would like to know what's going on. Thank you.
So just one thing, item on the agenda was making sure that we would get a presentation on the runway. We talked about this.
Oh, I think it's on next, right?
Right, I think it's on the next, for the next meeting.
yes,
This
we're
was such a
scheduled.
full agenda.
Right. No, I get it.
Okay.
Yeah, okay,
Scheduled for the next meeting in March to talk
Okay.
about
Yeah.
that issue.
perfect, thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Not, no.
Okay, then we are adjourned.